But if this is going to be a trend, maybe this narrative has been there now going on a decade.
Isn't it already a trend? Isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's like I kind of feel like it's like a detriment to them in a sense where, all right, at the end of the day, we know Gonzaga is going to win their conference. It's a given, and they're going to go play this non-conference schedule where they're going to play all these juggernauts and do well. And they have this good team. And I kind of feel like if they play in a better conference during the season, they can take those punches and then get better. But they never took any real punches during their conference schedule.
Here's the thing with that, day. Like, they've been to 6 straight Sweet 16s. They've been to 2 of the last 4 national title games.
They didn't play West Virginia twice.
Yeah, but can I ask you a question though? In the tournament this year, what teams did they play? And I'll throw, if you say Creighton, I look at Creighton as they're not even, as far as talent-wise, Creighton's a good team. They're not Gonzaga. So even then I look at Creighton as a smaller team. Like if I were to see Creighton against Baylor, I'd be like, well, Baylor's supposed to win because, just looking at the way the teams stack up. If I look at Gonzaga, I look at Creighton, and who else did Gonzaga play going into it's part of being their number 1 seed, so I grasp that. But if I go off of their non-conference schedule, their conference schedule, and then go all the way into the tournament where they're just not playing the competition, it's like it kind of feels like, all right, well, they came off of their conference schedule, which has been light in comparison to their non-conference schedule, and they go and they're the number 1 seed. They play a light 16, like whoever the playing game is. They win that. They go to the next game. It's a lighter version of that. To then go to after the Sweet 16, you play against Creighton, and then still a light version of a team that they're supposed to beat. And it's they haven't got a chance to play anybody.
But here's the problem with that is that one. They were tested. They got everything that BYU could handle in the WCC title game, and they found a way to win that. BYU did not miss a shot. Like BYU's game plan in the first half was don't miss, make every shot you take. Right. Same thing with UCLA in the Final Four. UCLA was an 11 seed first 4. They made every fucking shot that they took in the Final Four game. That was so. There's a stat, and this is one of the craziest things that I've heard about of the Final Four is that there's a stat called shot quality. I don't know if you guys pay attention to this, but it's basically just a metric that this guy puts together to determine what your number of expected points would be based off of how good the shots are that you got and the likelihood that you could get the offensive rebound off of them. And Gonzaga should have beaten UCLA by 22 points on an average night. If both of them had an average shooting night, Gonzaga would have won that game by 22 points.
And you know how many points UCLA was holding their NCAA tournament opponents to below their average regular season? 22 points.
But then look at UCLA's route on the way there, though. And look at their route, and then look who they played against a good Oregon team during the year. They played against this. Granted, Oregon State wasn't great during the season, but it was enough.
I hear you, man. But
I find it strange. That's all.
Gonzaga's been to 6 straight Sweet 16s. Right? They've been to 3 Elite Eights in that period, and they've been to 2 national title games. How much more can you do than that? You run into a North Carolina team, and your All-American point guard sprains his ankle, and you run into a North Carolina team that beats you, right? Not much you can do about it. That shit happens. Then in this game, you run into a Baylor team, and maybe we were just wrong, and Baylor was really the team that was historically great and kicking everybody's ass. I don't think that it was a fluke that Gonzaga was as good as they were.
No, it's not. I want to say it's a fluke. Go ahead, though. Go ahead, Fanta. My bad.
Here's the thing for a moment. This tournament is very arbitrary. It's very random. It has a lot of things that happen in it that you really can't project. And Gonzaga has been one of the predictables. When a bracket comes out that if you are in the same first weekend as Gonzaga, you're not getting out of it. And I got to tell you, when you consider the fact that there are 353 teams to start a season, if you're one of the final 16 teams left, you're doing something right. And if you're one of the final 16 teams left, then you're doing every year like they've been, then you're really doing something right. I do think these two things can be true. I think that, number one, when you play that conference schedule over the course of 2 months, there takes a tinkering when you are a high seed. And to Rob's point, you've been to 6 straight Sweet 16s, but by the same token, your seed does get benefited by that conference and dominating your way through it and rolling your way through it. So that when you hit that second weekend, when you have to face 4 of that caliber of teams in a row to win a national championship, that's where not playing in the Big 12, where Baylor's getting Kansas, Texas, Texas Tech, West Virginia, back to back to back to back. That's where that does prepare them better. But I'm going to ask you guys this. Had Gonzaga seen a team like Baylor this season before tonight?
There was no team like Baylor, and I think you can make the argument. I'll make the argument right now. There has not been a team like Baylor, at least since I've been doing this. There has not been a team like Baylor since the Ken Palm era started. And I got proof of this. This is definitive proof. They are the first team since 2002 to finish top 5 nationally in defensive turnover percentage, in offensive rebounding percentage, and three-point shooting percentage. Nobody has ever been as good at them at forcing turnovers, at getting offensive rebounds, and at making threes. And those are the 3 of the 4 things, the most important things you can do according to the 4 factors, which is like 4 factors. We don't have to go a deep dive into analytics here, but the theory behind the 4 factors, which was created by this guy named Dean Oliver, is that the 4 things you do to be able to be the most efficient team and win games of basketball are free throw rate, shooting percentages, turnover battles, and rebounding battles.
Possessions.
Get the most possessions you can and be as efficient as possible in scoring on those possessions, and you're going to win basketball games. And what Baylor can do is get more possessions better than anybody that we've seen in the history of college basketball, at least in the Ken Palm era. And they also do the one thing that makes you the most efficient you could possibly be, better than anybody else in college basketball this season, and that's shoot the 3. So, like, the idea that, yes, I hear you, Gonzaga probably should have been better. Also, they were a team that was 31-0, that beat the shit out of Kansas, that beat West Virginia, that beat the shit out of Iowa, that beat a whole bunch of really good teams this year, made it all the way to the national title game. On a night where Baylor played their A game and Gonzaga brought their C game. I get what you're saying, Dave, but I don't want this game to tie into a narrative that says, like, Gonzaga can't win the big one. Because how many teams have we seen over the years where we said, like, you can't win the big one until you actually win the big one, right? Like, Jim Calhoun had it for a while. Bill Self had it for a while. John Calipari had it for a while. Everybody can't win the big one until they actually win the big one.
Jay Wright lost 3 of 4 first-round games and then won 2.
Remember when Jay Wright? But my point is, obviously, oh, my bad, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, not to crap all over all of that, but
By the way, it's really hard to drink Prosecco out of a big bottle. I just want to put that out there. I really should have brought a cup.
That is true. That is true.
Did you not?
That is true. Keep going. It'll get easier.
I was too excited to I was going to
talk to him, man. Talk to him, man.
I have one question.
If you keep going, it gets easier.
My one question is, Rob, did you not prepare for tonight, or did you just drink all your beer and now you're on Prosecco?
Well,
my stat is this: it's actually a question. Name the last time Gonzaga beat a 3-seed or higher in the NCAA tournament. It was 2000.
Say that again? I couldn't hear you.
Name the last time Gonzaga beat a 3-seed or higher in the NCAA tournament. It was 2000. That's I don't want to write into stat narratives and the seed lines and everything, but like that is something.
No, like to that point, I brought up Gonzaga playing in a conference, and I know everybody's like, well, he's saying if you don't play conference, you won't win an NCAA tournament. No, the point is that if Gonzaga, let's say they don't play in a different tournament, a different conference, and they just play in the conference they're in. If they were to even schedule like a couple non-conference games to prepare themselves for what is to come now, the conference, the knock, because they won those games. And it's a little bit easier to win when you're in your non-conference schedule. You've just beat Kansas. You've already played against the Kansas team. When you go to the next team, if they're not as good as Kansas that day, or if they're whatever, they beat the next teams. They played these teams in a row, so they have a rhythm against a good team. They have rhythm against good teams. They've won it. Now you go into your conference schedule, and now you dial it. Like, that's what happens. They're going to dial it back in their conference. You can't tell me if Gonzaga went and played Abilene Christian University 10 times and then went and played Baylor, they'd be just the same team. Like, no, it's not. In real life, it's not that well. So, in general, if they had it in their conference schedule, just to schedule 1 or 2 games before the conference schedule ends, they're going to go into the conference tournament and all that stuff. They're going to play and all these things, but I kind of feel it does them such a big disservice because they are a really great team, and then you go into your conference and then you shit on people, and then you shit. It's not a problem. I don't know. I just kind of feel like
what you're saying is not wrong, but the only problem I have with that narrative is that you're assuming that getting to the national title game means nothing. Like they got to the national
facts.
game.
They got to the title game. They got to the national title game. They did.
They were losing in the second weekend. You'd be right. If they couldn't get past the Sweet 16, you'd be right. They've been in 2 of the last 4 national title games. Like because they're the second best team in America according to these standards. Like they can't win the big one. Like so, what the fuck is the Final Four? Like is the Final Four not a big one? What if like the Elite Eight and get into a Final Four? So like I get what you're saying. And look, the problem is like that's always going to be there until they actually get
win.
Yeah, until they actually. It's always going to be there until they actually get it done. But in my mind, if you go from the Elite Eight to the Final Four, you won the big one. If you go from the Final Four to the national title game, you won the big one. Just because you haven't won the national title yet does not say anything about the standard of your program.
It definitely doesn't.
You haven't won a national title yet. You only.
I don't hold anything against Gonzaga's program more or less. I just feel like it sucks that they keep missing this, like not keep missing it, but I feel like they definitely could have won the national title, and I feel like they didn't because they did not.
When they have Chet Holmgren and Walker Kessler next year, they're winning the national title. Let's put.
Can I ask you a question? Who else is coming back to that team? Let's talk about that now.
Well,
who's coming back?
Not Suggs. Not Jalen Suggs.
Yeah, the main 6 guys that played are not going to be there.
So Suggs is gone. I would not be surprised if Ayayi was gone because I think he's going to be an early second-round pick.
So Suggs, Ayayi, the seniors.
I think Timmy did not do himself any favors with his performance tonight. Like I thought he was pretty bad against that ball pressure. Like he tried to do his like dribble between people stuff, and like that ain't going to work against Davion Mitchell and Mark Vital. I think that Nembhard. We'll see. Like he's a senior by class. Like he's going to graduate. Like I don't know if it makes sense for him to come back. But like the thing about it is they have so much talent that didn't play.
I know.
Ben Gregg is a top 40 prospect. Umar Ballo is just a stud that from Mali. Like I remember like the 2019 whatever's like he was tearing it up there. They got a kid named Pavel whatever. I'm not going to even bother trying to say his name. Julian Strawther's like a former top 60 recruit. They got a couple other guys on the bench that are top 60 recruits. You know they're going to be all over that transfer portal because they've been killing it for the transfer. So like I'm not worried about them.
No, they should be the preseason #1 team in the country heading into next year.